Hey, right. Let's just jump straight into this. Thanks for tuning in. If you've come here, it's because I'm going to do a comparison side by side of renting versus buying because I am, and this has slowly crept up on me. Although I've seen this and I've been commenting on this for quite some time, whereby median values across Melbourne have been going, broadly speaking, let's say sideways. Apartments have been trending downwards for the past 5 years. Houses, broadly speaking, again, have been going sideways. Incredible opportunity when all the other states have been flying. Melbourne's going sideways. The cycle beforehand, all the growth was Melbourne and Sydney. And for the past cycle here, Melbourne's been going sideways. Nothing new there. But what has happened at the same time is rents have significantly increased. And so therefore it does it, like I say, so this is following a call that I had with a potential client just a few days ago. Got me thinking, rent or buy. And so logically, if one was moving to a new location, whether that's an expat returning back to Melbourne or a future Melburnian sort of coming across, the logical, it wouldn't even be a decision. You would just assume in most instances, well, I'll rent for a couple of years while I find my feet, find the locations that I want to live in. And, I don't really know the locations. I don't know where I'm going to work. I don't know. And there's so many questions. I don't know the system. I've never bought there before. I don't know how to do this. The theme of this newsletter, this video is the first step might not be a rental after all, because let's jump straight in. It's really fascinating because I want to share you these numbers. Now, first and foremost, the features Collingwood, and just check this out here. I'm going to show to you. So Collingwood, everybody knows Collingwood, premium suburb. Houses in Collingwood for the last 5 years are the same value, insane value. But when we come down to apartments, check this out. Now, I have changed my tune on apartments. I've been very vocal over the past 10 years on how high risk apartments are, but it does come a point where good value becomes common sense or logical. You just can't pass on good value. And that's what I'm seeing right this second, is that look at this, apartments. The median value is down from 660 to 600 in the past 5 years. That's a 10% drop in the last 5 years during a period where rents have risen in Collingwood at least 30%, if not more. I'm being conservative. And so there becomes a real sweet spot or an amazing opportunity. And anyone that's still watching this video so far, jump into the Shortlist Studio where you can see the article. It's called Rent or Buy because it explains the context of where I'm heading on this. But going to make this real. So this is an apartment in the developments 28 to 50 Stanley Street in Collingwood. Awesome location, great development. Sold recently, 687, which is a 211. You can see here, just show you very quickly. It's nice. There's no cladding issues. There's no issues. It's a proper car park, not a stacker. There's a swimming pool. There's great communal facilities. The body corporate fees are normal. There is nothing wrong with this development whatsoever, I'm telling you. Same again, 688, just a couple of weeks ago. Beautiful development, lifestyle, awesome. And again, if for somebody that needs a house, this doesn't make sense. But for somebody coming back or moving to Melbourne, like I say, perhaps renting is a waste of money, because I'm going to break down these numbers right all of a sudden. Is that so before we jump there, these are the real numbers. I'm going to base it on 675. Coming to the rental, this is the same building, 2 beds, 1 bath, 1 car park, is exactly the same, that will rent for $700 a week, which is 30. Let me just do the number. 36 and a half thousand dollars. $36,500. Remember that number. Going to jump into this now. So this is For anyone who is considering their options, this is exactly the process that I go through with all of our clients, and I'm determining two things. So this is for any client that's considering purchasing. Two things. One, how much cash is required to buy this property? And two, conservatively, and this is, I say that pronounced because a lot of people get this number wrong, but conservatively know exactly what this is going to cost you to hold month in, month out. Conservative. All right. And so going to jump around on the numbers here. I've actually pre-filled most of this, but step you through it bit by bit. Purchase price 675. Don't worry about land and building value. That's another subject entirely. Loan, initially, we're going to say 80% loan to value, 6% interest rate. Locals will get cheaper than that right now. But again, being conservative, we've got our buyer agent fee in here. We've got finance fees. We've got title insurance. We've got full stamp duty. All the links are below here. Anyone wants a copy of this? And it is a simple spreadsheet, but the next page is pretty cool. Legal fees, rental per week, I know because I've just done it, 5.4% gross, which is $700, and that property will rent for $700. Management fees, leasing fees, everything in there for 10%. Everything's here, council rates, water rates, insurance. In fact, actually insurance is way too high. You'll be looking at about 300 because the body corporate, which is about $5,000, that's about normal for this sort of property, includes the building insurance. And when we jump over to the next page is, I'm just going to need to change this loan 540. Yep, 3238. 3238. Yep. So cash to purchase 193,871. Let's just call it 195. And if it was an investment property, this property would cost you 1,347 per month out of pocket, which includes $538 of principal. Okay, so monthly cost would be 808. And FYI, it has been a long time since I've seen this level of affordability. And that's because of that median value staying sideways and the yield going up. Okay, so that in itself tells me that Melbourne is extremely good value right this second. So this is assuming right this second as an investment. If we hop back over and say, no, this is for somebody to occupy, so there'll be no yield. The monthly cost will be 3,500. 3,550 plus obviously 500 of principal, but that's like pretty much putting money into a savings account because of the principal coming down. And we've already said, let me just do that calculation. 700 divided by, it's 100. 36 divided by 12 is $3,000 rounded. So cash in 195,000 to purchase this property. It's to buy this property and live in it yourself. It is only going to cost you $550 more a month to buy it and own it. And that for me is it does raise the question, why would you buy? Sorry, why would you rent? Because let's just say, for example, all of a sudden you had some more cash than that. And so let's say it was 60%. And so therefore, which would be not 195, let's call it 330. Okay. And so what you could be doing here is going right 20% down and then 20% in an offset. So the money's still liquid, but it's ultimately come off the whole thing. So you're not paying interest on that. All right. So the loan would then be 405. 405, which would be 2428. 24, 28. And so actually, so at that point, it would be cheaper. It would be cheaper to own this property than to rent it. And as in the context of the article following this, the client call that I had, this property, now FYI, and this is exactly the number, the property that they are considering moving from and to would be at least $1,250 per week. So that's $5,000 a month. $5,000 a month versus 28.75. Now, of course, for the 5,000, they'd get themselves a 2 or 3 bedroom. It would be a nice 2 bedroom house or a small 3 bedroom house in Collingwood in the same location. Getting one is another story, but so there would be a compromise in terms of going, okay, the lifestyle is very different in terms of the apartment versus the house. So that's one of the key considerations here for anybody. But and I'm just going to stop my share here because this is really important. Is the point I'm trying to make here is that, and the lifestyle that those clients had moved back from, they are used to apartment living. They are very used to that. And so in this context for them, they could hypothetically, or actually in my opinion, is that I don't think they've thought this through. I don't think they've even considered the option of buying and owning. Because if they did, they could actually move into a stunning apartment in the location that they have benchmarked. Yes, it is where they want to be. Living in a property that they're used to living in, way below their means, which could mean that they could accelerate the down payment of their principal. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the core principle that the shortlist is all about, is that it is the safest and most effective strategy, property strategy out there. And I'm such an enormous advocate of that, is to buy somewhere, move into it. And in this context here, they could move into it for 2-3 years, find their feet, find their location, get stability, work out whether they're actually going to stay in Melbourne for the long term. There's so many question marks for new arrivals into a place. There's so much uncertainty. But why spend that $36,500 a year on rent when you can cipher that into a property, down pay the principal, live way below your means, and perfectly set you up for the next step? And the next step could be, yes, those clients, they could move into this and say, you know what, actually, we're out of here. We want to go back to our old life. And boom, they have then the option of keeping the property and using it as a phenomenal, really good, solid investment. They could sell it and cash in their chips. Awesome. There's going to be money because they've been down paying that principal. And at some point, and I'm not relying on this for one little bit, but at some point there will be appreciation in those apartments because the yield is telling me it is mathematically due. But also what might happen here is that they may, and it all hinges on this. It's called manufacturing your own equity. By down paying that principal, it perfectly, they might go through, they might find their feet in Melbourne and absolutely love living here, and then decide, no, actually, yep, we want to move out a little bit. We want to go and buy a house out in X suburb, but we're going to keep the apartment. We're going to use the equity. We've saved up some more money. We're doing okay. We've found our jobs, blah, blah, blah. And then actually move out to the suburb, keep the apartment as their city pad, go and buy a nice house in a phenomenal suburb, which is just what Melbourne's all about. All because of the shift occurred because for an idea that they genuinely hadn't even considered. And that's the point here that I'm trying to make, is that perhaps, almost repeat myself, and it is the theme of the newsletter, perhaps the first step might not be a rental after all. If you're with me still, thank you very much. There's a lot to unpack in this video, and if it does raise any questions that you just want to run past me, please just connect in somehow. It's all you know how to reach in, and let's have a quick call and talk about your options. And I think that underlines one of the most things that I'm most passionate about is looking at everybody's scenario through their lens, not mine. I'm not trying to, you know, our strategy is not trying to get you to see things our way. It's actually for us to see it your way, and then actually try and discover options that perhaps you haven't even considered yourself. And then we can work through those, look at how actually role play that through, and look at how does that look in reality, and start joining some of the dots for you. All right. Well, take care, and hopefully I'll speak to you at some point. Bye bye.